Hey guys, I've got a very special video for you today, and that is going to be the 30 best wild legendaries you need to have for the upcoming year. So let's get right into it. Now, as for Warrior, the only legendary that I would recommend is Ankar. Now, it did just receive a nerf, but it's still an incredibly powerful card. Drawing 2 pirates or even more with upgrade effects is very strong, and it's not going anywhere in Pirate Warrior and very likely Galakrond Warrior decks. Now, for Shaman, the 2 legendaries I would recommend are going to be Vicina and Shudderwalk. There are some situational legendaries that are quite good in Shaman. In fact, you can see a lot of them here that you will see frequently in lists such as Even Shaman and Shudderwalk Shaman, but the 2 cards that are not going anywhere for a long time are just Vicina and Shudderwalk, so those are the ones I would recommend you craft. Now, as for Druid, it depends what type of player you are. If you are a combo Druid player, then I would highly recommend that you craft Aviana and Kun, as they are very strong and not going anywhere for fun combo decks, but there's not always an Aviana Kun deck in the meta that's very strong, so the only card that I would recommend is Malfurion. Now, Malfurion is strong in every Druid deck, and pretty much every single Druid deck runs this card, so it's a safe craft because it is not going anywhere. Now, as for Warlock, just solely based on the hero power and a couple broken cards, Warlock is pretty much always going to be in the top 3 classes in Wild, and some of these cards are the reason why. Now, the ones I've chosen to recommend are Solarium, Skull, Godfrey, Mal'Ganis, and Gul'dan, and that is because they provide a wide variety of value in a wide variety of decks. Now, Solarium is always going to be good in Warlock combo decks, so that's not going anywhere. And then cards such as Skull, Mal'Ganis, and Gul'dan are extremely powerful with demons. Q-Block recently just made a huge resurgence and now might be the best deck in the game. And of course, Godfrey is an incredible control tool that can be run in combo decks or in control decks such as Reno Warlock. Now, Mage is the other class that's really never going to go anywhere in Wild because of some of the broken cards that they have. The cards that I've chosen for you today are Waygate, Alaneth, and Reno Relicologist. Now, Alaneth is a key to Secret Mage and Burn decks, which are very good, and based on the secret synergy that we have now, are not likely to be changed for a long time. Reno Quest Mage is also a heavy contender for the best deck in the meta. The legendaries that you need to have are going to be Waygate and Reno Relicologist in order to run that deck. And now we get into the neutral legendaries, of which I have recommended 18. The first one is quite obvious. It is Patches the Pirate. Now, pretty much every aggro deck these days runs pirates with Patches. Pulling a card out of your deck, especially a 1/1 on turn 1, is very strong. It gives you better draws in the future, and it puts just an extra guy on board, which cannot be understated when you are trying to kill the opponent, usually by about turn 5 to 7. Sir Finley is the next card, and it holds a similarly important place in aggro decks. Changing your hero power is extraordinarily important for decks like Warrior, which have a very anti-aggro hero power to begin with, but would like an aggro hero power. There is simply no card that compares, and as a 1-mana 1/3, it still has a very competitive stat line. At 2 mana, we have Blood Mage Thalnos. Now, this card has been a staple in Hearthstone for an extremely long time, and that's not going to change in Wild. Spell damage is amazing with Warlock cards such as Defile and especially Dark Skies, and so Blood Mage Thalnos has only gotten more relevant over time. Closing out the 2 mana slot, we have Zephyrs the Great. Now, this card is extremely good in Highlander decks. It is most of the reason Highlander decks were brought back from the dead in these most recent metas, and overall the card is incredible. It's pushed a lot of things out of the meta, and itself serves as a counter to many decks, including finding weapon destruction for Q-Block, finding silence when you need it, sometimes. And it can even do crazy things like destroy any demon for 0 mana with Sacrificial Pact. At the 3 mana slot, we have a lot of control-enabling cards, and that is going to be Bran and Zola. Now, these are staples in pretty much every Reno deck. If you just want to get a bunch of extra copies of a certain card, this is the cheapest and most efficient way to do it. These 2 legendaries are always going to be run in control decks that need extra copies of important cards, and therefore you cannot go without them in 2020. And at the 5 mana slot, we have a couple Hearthstone staples and one relatively new card. We've got Barista Lynchen, which not everybody might expect to see on this list. However, it fulfills the same role that Bran and Zola do, except it gives you copies of every Battlecry minion you have, which combined with Bran can give you basically a full hand of cards that you really, really want. Now, it's not good in every Reno deck, but I suspect that most Reno decks will be running this from now until the end of time, and therefore it makes sense that it would be on this list. Now, Leroy is the card in here that probably needs the least explanation. It is a 5 mana, 6 attack charge, which means it's never going to be cut from aggro decks. And now on to one of the most important legendaries in this entire video, and that is going to be Loatheb. Now, a 5 mana 5/5 isn't necessarily a competitive stat line in Wild, but when you consider the Battlecry, it makes a lot of sense. Enemy spells cost 5 more next turn, which usually makes any spell that your opponent wanted to play very unplayable or extremely difficult to play. This is the ultimate combo disruption, and combo is only getting better in Wild, so Loatheb is a must-have if you want to stop combo decks. Now, it's not flashy, it's not too interesting, but Ziliax absolutely makes this list. There are a bunch of decks that simply don't have the healing that they need that run Ziliax just because it's a very flexible and strong card. 3 attack on board, 3 healing, sometimes as much as 6 to 9 healing, just makes it all around a great card in decks that need a little more board control and healing. Emperor Thaurissan is the classic combo enabler, and therefore it is pretty much a must-have in any combo deck in Wild. There are some combo decks that run without. However, that doesn't mean that Thaurissan isn't a good card. Thaurissan is good in control decks, it's good in combo decks. The only thing it's not good in is aggro decks. But if we ever see a heavy control/combo meta, Thaurissan is only going to get better. Now to talk about 2 cards that you might have guessed would make this list, and that would be Genn and Baku. They are the enablers of even and odd decks, and I would say upwards of 1/3 of all the good decks in the meta are even or odd decks. So it just makes sense that if you need to have a specific set of legendaries, that Genn and Baku are always going to make that list. If you have Genn and Baku, you can actually make a ton of cheap aggro and mid-range decks around those cards, and it's relatively easy because the strength of them is usually contained within the hero power. Now, at 6 mana, I also chose to include Kronk's Dragonhoof. Now, this inclusion might surprise you a little bit, but I feel like Galakrond decks are here to stay. Galakrond Rogue can enable some crazy combos, and Galakrond Warrior enables Warrior to have a late game package that still manages to go face extremely well. At number 6, we have another close call, but I chose to go with Mojo Master Zihi. Now, a lot of you guys might be wondering why I chose this card, because it's not very common in the current meta. And the reason is because Mojo Master next to Loatheb is pretty much the best combo disruption we have in the game. Now, if your combo requires 10 mana, such as Mecha'thun, which is the most prevalent combo deck right now, or Reno Questmage, which is the second most prevalent combo deck right now, you need a lot of mana to execute your combo. Now, if you play Mojo Master on your opponent, it means they have 4 turns until they hit 10 mana again, which slows them down significantly, especially if you're Mecha'thun Warlock and you are at the end of your deck. Usually spending 4 turns is just not an option. So you play Mojo Master at the right time against the right deck, and it is just a free win. Now, it might not be amazing right now, but this card is only going to get better as combo becomes more and more prevalent. At number 6, you know who it is. It's going to be Reno Jackson. Reno Jackson is an incredibly strong card. It is a Highlander enabler, and you are going to see a ton of it from here until the end of time. Highlander decks are carried by Zephyrs and Reno, and you notice that Kazakus didn't make this list, and that's because Kazakus is actually getting weaker and weaker as time goes on. 4 mana 3/3 can be hard to play at times, and the spell doesn't always get you what you want, but when you play Reno and Zephyrs, you always get what you want, for the most part, which is a lot of healing or an answer to what's currently going on in the game. At number 8, I chose King Togwaggle, And that is because, as I've said multiple times in this video, combo is only going to get better, and Togwaggle is one of the most fun and common combos in Wild. There is Togwaggle Priest, there's Togwaggle Druid, hell, there's even Togwaggle Warlock, though I recommend you don't play that last one. Togwaggle is a card that will only become stronger as other strange legendaries are created that work in synergy with it. And last but certainly not least, I chose Mecha'thun. Now, Mecha'thun Warlock is one of the best decks in the game, and it can only be improved by future cards. It already manages to combo on turn 10 rather consistently, and if some better draw card were printed for the meta, or if some better control tool were printed for the deck would be even stronger, even though people currently think it is one of the strongest, likely top 3 decks in the meta right now. So that's all I have for you guys today. Do you agree with my list? If you don't, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Like if you like, go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. And if you'd like to catch me live streaming on Twitch, I live stream every single day at 11 o'clock PST. If you'd like a notification when I go live, my Discord is in the description. And with that, I hope you have a fantastic day.